If I told you that the best genre in all of anime was Isekai, you'd probably laugh in my face. After all, there are countless videos explaining why Isekai is flaming hot garbage and why the many shows of this genre aren't worth watching at all. For the most part, it's pretty rare to find anyone defending Isekai whatsoever. So here I am, ready to explain why almost 10% of every season for the last handful of years has been comprised of mostly depressingly shoddy Isekai, why it is and may always be popular, and why Isekai is, without a shadow of a doubt, the best genre in all of anime. Now, I understand that making the claim of Isekai being the best genre in anime is sort of unfathomable to most seasoned anime fans, so let me explain with some philosophy. For example, the reason people have different opinions on what shows are the best is not because there are multiple best anime, but rather that they judge the shows based on qualities that they individually value. Imagine for a second that instead of anime, we're talking about cars. Most people will have different opinions on what car is the best based on their own needs, preferences, and circumstances. Some people only need a commuter, some need space for kids, some need a work truck, and many just need something to meet a specific price point. Depending on which of these and many other possible factors one needs to take into consideration, we can then understand the measuring stick for what we could be able to consider the best car. And if we wanted to decide the best car of all time, we would need to all agree on the factors by which we would be measuring the options. Furthermore, and getting back to anime, two people believing different shows to be the best does not mean that both are objectively the best, nor does it mean that truth is subjective. Rather, it is objectively true that person A believes that Bakemonogatari is the best anime, and person B believes that Chainsaw Man is the best anime. Neither's personal preferences have a direct bearing on what is objectively best, but rather what is best to them. And as such, we need to clarify what makes something quote good before we can objectively make any assertion as to what the best genre in anime may truly be. So, how in the hell do we figure out the factors we should use to objectively measure something? One of the best ways to understand if something is good or bad is within the idea of Aristotle's function theory. Aristotle, in hopes he could find the purpose and eventually the meaning of human life, used the concept of function, also known as ergon, to attempt understanding what makes us who we are. Aristotle reasoned that everything, animate or not, had a unique function. For example, the function of a good knife is to cut, and for a knife to be considered good, it needed to be sharp, so it could cut well. And with this line of reasoning, Aristotle came to the conclusion that the unique function of humans is rational activity, specifically the ability to think and act analytically and logically. Using this line of reasoning, we can come to understand what the purpose of anime may be, and thus be able to answer what genre could be considered the best. So, what is the purpose of anime? Is it to tell a good story? To be funny? To teach a lesson? Perhaps to have the best animation, voice acting, and sound design? To be frank, it's none of that. The real purpose of anime, much like most forms of fictionalized media, is simply to be entertaining. All of the prior listed reasons are virtues of anime that give it a way to achieve its purpose. They are the sharp blade to the knife's cut. Now, having a way to measure what makes an anime good or bad, we can figure out what genre is best in accordance with that purpose. Here enters the principle of utility. This is the idea that things are to be judged by the amount of good or bad that comes from them. For example, your father's old watch that no longer works anymore does not have any physical use because it cannot tell time. That being said, perhaps the watch brings back good memories and has values in the sentiment that it holds. If this watch brings you joy, then it has higher utility according to the principle of utility. Even if this watch may never serve its purpose as an object, the fact that it can bring happiness means it's good. And this good can then be compared to the good of another object. Anime is something that is designed to be enjoyed, and many people have many different ways to enjoy such anime. One person might enjoy romance, one might like slice of life, one may love action, and some poor bastards, like myself, spend their time enjoying Isekai. Now, if we can define what makes a show good or bad as being the amount of entertainment one can receive from it, it might be possible to declare Isekai the best genre in all of anime. I mean, clearly people like it. There's no way so much would come out if people were not watching it and didn't enjoy it. Though, to say that isekai brings more utility than any other genre is gonna be hard to explain. See, there's more to isekai than just power fantasy and shitty plots. The reason many people tend to like isekai is because of exactly what the name means in English. The idea of another world is intriguing because it can bring about so many experiences that cannot be seen in the real world. Oftentimes, the fact that most isekai happen in very similar fantasy worlds is used as a way to explain how the stories are boring and lack creativity. And while that may, in some sense, be true, there is an almost infinite amount of different experiences the characters can go through without being confined to the constraints of the real world. Sure, they'll likely become super powerful and surrounded by all sorts of waifus, but the mundane interactions and ways this come about are what makes these shows interesting and enjoyable. It's no secret that a lot of isekai tend to be seen as, or clearly are, self-insert stories that appeal to people who wish that they could be in a similar situation. And while these people may be in need of some grass touching, it doesn't devalue their gained happiness. In reality, there are many things in these shows that people do reasonably hope for. And no, I don't mean the power fantasy stuff. For someone in a bad place in life, like many of us are or have been in before, or someone who wants to sit back and enjoy the mundane and boring nature of these anime simply to relax and not have to dispense of the brain power needed when watching a political thriller, themes like true friendship, romantic relationships, a driving goal, a sense of purpose, and being freed of prior commitments such as debt or a shitty job, are all understandable reasons someone might wish to self-insert into the role these hardly distinguishable main characters find themselves in. I'm sure that if I were to ask anyone watching this if they wanted those such things I just mentioned, I would be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't want to live a debt-free, purpose-filled, and adventurous life. As it turns out, no matter who you are or where you come from, our struggles in this life are similar, and the hopes, dreams, and aspirations we hold are also similar. What many isekai do is let you experience the things that we often tend to think make life good, oftentimes without a heavy plot hanging over your head. Sure, one could love a suspenseful mystery show or a show that could kill off any character at any given moment, but those aren't the shows that many care to watch after a long, hard day. Many would much rather relax and enjoy a simple show with no strings pulling them around and filling them with different emotions. Simply self-inserting and getting to feel a breath of new and fun experiences without much, if any, consequences can be refreshing and relieve some of the stress caused by daily life. And as the rates of stress and depression have been rising and continue to rise, we more and more understand the tribulations that life tends to bring along with itself. It seems to me that while more and more people find themselves trapped by their daily lives, those same people turn to something that can help fill that void. Some good, anime, socializing, and getting outdoors, and some bad, drinking, drug use, and the formation of antisocial behavior. Despite isekai not necessarily being the highest quality form of anime, it's nice to see people being able to seek comfort in something that's not self-damaging. And if we do define anime as something that brings about the most happiness, then I think it can stand up to reason that isekai does its part in helping people to live much happier lives. In a way, I would compare isekai to Dad's Watch I mentioned earlier. Perhaps it isn't the most impressive form of anime, seeing as isekai tend to not be phenomenal shows, but perhaps it has the highest utility because of the amount of happiness it can bring about from people being able to just simply enjoy it despite the perceived lower level of quality. Perhaps you've already heard the popular quote, "Most men lead lives of quiet desperation." This quote from Henry David Thoreau seems to ring surprisingly true. If you've ever worked a shitty job, blue collar or not, you've likely met many people like this. It's an unfortunate truth of the world that we live in that everyone will experience suffering. Even just the day-to-day can be draining, and it's nice to know that so many people can seek comfort in watching anime, getting to vicariously experience things that they may otherwise not be able to, and to hopefully build a growing motivation to work towards a life in which they can enjoy some of those same experiences themselves is what makes isekai a fantastically enjoyable genre for many people. It's because of the use case and the massive amount of people that are watching them that makes isekai the genre of anime that can bring about the most entertainment value and thus fulfill the purpose of anime above the likes of all other genres. This, in turn, is why isekai is, in fact, the best genre in all of anime. Thanks for watching.